Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig.
And this is Sandy.
And I just want to let you know that I'm sitting here pouting, just so you know about that. I was going to sit here and...
Why don't you show them the face that you've been giving me for the last 10 minutes?
Let's be pouting. So, why are you pouting? Because I forgot all about the chicken that was in the fridge. Roasted chicken.
I can't believe you're telling everybody that.
So, I'm just pouting.
Because you wanted to make sandwiches.
No, I wanted, I could eat it without sandwiches. But anyway, just want to let you know I was pouting, and it's just the way it is.
Let me ask you this question. Did you know the chicken was there?
I knew it was there, and I just kept forgetting about it. So that's my fault.
Who do you need to talk? Okay, there you go.
You need to go there.
Well, you could do it.
So anyway, you are with us this evening for Walking in Spirit and Truth, and I'm John Craig.
And I'm Sandy.
And I'm glad that you're joining us, and we're going to have a good time tonight. And I just want to let you know I've had a song going through my head, and I don't even know because I haven't listened to this song forever, but it's been going through my head because we've been talking about like gates and stuff like that. And no, it wasn't that because it's totally secular.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this is news to me, folks. I don't know.
Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
I don't even know that.
Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone.
I don't even know that song. I don't think I've even heard of that song.
You haven't heard about it's just another brick in the wall.
I've never heard of that. And why is that in your head?
I don't know. But
if I was thinking about gates, the first song that would come into my head is, I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart.
See, you're so spiritual.
Whatever. It's true. No.
It's true. It's true.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
My exposure to I have not experienced what you've experienced in life.
Put another brick in the wall.
No. Remember, I was the kind of kid, I set goals. By the time I was a freshman in college, I was praying that the Father would show me where I was supposed to go. I wanted to be valedictorian of my class. I wanted to be all state in flute. I wanted to excel and exceed in everything I did. And I wanted to be a mighty woman of God. And if anything else didn't bring me to that place, I didn't have time for it.
And you know what I did?
You partied.
I didn't party. I was not a partier.
Well, you did not even get saved till you were 19.
Yeah, but I wasn't a partier. But I did enjoy music. I did enjoy sports. I did enjoy all that sort of stuff. And I just wanted to graduate. So I just wanted to get older. I wanted to get older. And here now I just want to be younger.
And I just wanted to be successful and be a mighty woman of God.
I just wanted to get out. I wanted to.
So you're trying to tell me you never did any vices in high school, in college?
That's a whole nother show. It's not this show.
Okay. See, to me, that's what I would describe as partying.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I wasn't really a big partier.
Okay.
Joe says, nope, not me. I was the class clown.
I was the the nickname that
no kidding, Joe.
We've seen her play Quelf. We know. That's so fun. I miss her. I miss you, Joe. My nickname in high school was Miss Goody Two Shows, and I did not know about it until somebody from high school came to our church, Life of Worship, in Amarillo, Texas, and told me my nickname that everybody called me was Miss Goody Two Shoes.
Go figure. I wasn't Mr. Goody Two Shoes.
What were you?
Oh no, I was just happy.
Skinny chicken legs.
I was just happy to be there, and no one talked about that. Just happy to be there. Just happy to be here this evening. With you.
I'm sure everybody. Terry says she can see that in you, Pastor John. Anyway, welcome, Terry. Welcome, Joe. Welcome to all those who are listening and who will be listening to this program. We are going to be we have been talking about gates, and we were at the fish gate, and it's led us to talk about the 153 fish. It's led us to talk about the loaves and fishes, the feeding of the 5,000, the 4,000. And so we're on a journey here. Hopefully we'll wade through some of that tonight. And we're also going to give a quick update on what's going on. As you heard me say just a few minutes ago, is that we are broadcasting right here from Amarillo, Texas. John and I co-pastor a congregation called Life of Worship right here in Amarillo, Texas. And we would love to have you come by, visit us. You can also tune into our services at our YouTube live site, not this one, but it's Life of Worship Amarillo Skeptio, and you can subscribe and tune right into our sermons. But we also do our tour portion study and part in our music and things right there on Pal Talk for now, and as well as our tour talk on Mondays. Anyway, Pal Talk and YouTube Live is our main services, and you want to tune in because you want to go check out what's been preached, what's been everything else. And when will Eddie be here? Well, Eddie contacted us. Was it last week or the week before? It doesn't matter. One of the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, sorry, I can't come in May as expected. I will be there June 5th and 6th, the very first Friday and Saturday of June." So if I got those June 5th and 6th, first Friday and Saturday of June, Eddie Chumney will be at Life of Worship, and we're excited to have him.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, if you want to partner with John and I in this ministry, we are praying for partners. You can also donate right there on our website, www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. John, you could help out a little bit. Yeah. There we go. I have it scrolling right now. There you go. Instead of just pointing for me.
I'm helping you produce this show today.
And you also have me doing most of the talking?
I'm helping you do the talking as well. I'm color commentary tonight.
Okay. What color commentary do you want to give right now?
Well, it just depends if it's going to be blue or purple or
which pill are we
green.
taking?
Yeah. Is it going to be the red pill or the blue pill?
Which one's the good pill?
Depends on if you want to wake up.
Do you want to wake up?
I'm awake.
Which pill did you take then?
I took the blue pill.
I see. I don't remember which is which.
I do. Oh. Take the blue pill.
Then how come you always say take the red pill?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Anyway, so what is the quick update you want to do with us tonight?
Oh, sure, Cass. Can you put me on the spot?
Okay.
All I have to say is
so hold on. We have people are wanting to know Seder information. All right. Grab a bulletin.
There you go.
Let's see. You talk for a second because I got to find the Seder information.
Okay. So, see, Joe agrees with me. Take the blue pill. It wakes you up.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about John tonight. I'm not sure where he's at. So
maybe I do need to be awakened. But
Terry said she put out the info on Chameleon Church about our Seder. Very cool. Very cool.
Hey, so just an FYI, last week, if you go back to last week's Walking in Spirit and Truth, we talked about, it was a current update for last week for this coronavirus that's going around. And if like a lot of people, it's like there's too much information to keep up with. And I agree. Today I wasn't able to keep up with much, but I did pick up something, and I thought it was very interesting. Because people say, it must not be that bad out there. And I'm out there thinking about, okay, how bad is it? But Mike Adams was on the Alex Jones show today, and he was given an update, and I wasn't able to listen to much of it at all. But he did say this: understand that the CDC sent out a whole bunch of test kits, and they weren't any good. So they were getting false positives and they were getting false negatives. So the numbers that you're hearing about here in the United States, how many cases there are, well, they've only been able to confirm basically a few dozen. It really hasn't been that many. But the reason is it's not because anything more than they don't have test kits to check. And that is what is that you need to know. That they haven't been able to test. Really, the only country in the world that it really has been giving at more accurate numbers, it's South Korea. South Korea is actually giving us real information.
As much as we know.
And so what happened is last week, they basically had a church service, and I can't say that it was a Christian church service. I think it was a non-Christian church service, but where one lady who was ground zero she was in this congregation of 600 people, that's where it all started. And by Friday, there was some 400 and something cases. By Saturday, 600 and some odd cases. By today, they have over 1,000 cases. Now, it is only Tuesday. It's the fourth day of the week. And so by Saturday, by Shabbat, they had 600 and some odd, and now it's over 1,000. So that's how quickly this thing, and that's confirmed cases in South Korea.
And think about that minimum 42-day incubation period.
Yeah, it can be up to that long in incubation period. This virus can hang around and be on objects, doorknobs, light switches, shopping carts, whatever, for up to, I think it's like 28 days or something like that. So this is something that no one really knows the right numbers, because there's no way to really test for the right numbers. And so this is why we just need to make sure that we're doing the right things, that you are praying, that you are washing your hands, you're building up your immune system with vitamin D3, K2, as well as...
We're not doing that.
Well, I know we need to. Vitamin C, those are all very important basic things. If you can do any basic things, build your immune system. And of course, there's some other things, silver, colloidal silver that you can take. Structured silver. You can get certain types of things that have colloidal silver in it, like creams or something that you can spray on your hands, and it'll stay on your hands for 2 hours. And those have been
structured will.
And the nano colloidal silver as well.
It's not colloidal silver, it's structured.
No, there's nano as well. I'm just talking about what is actually out there. Okay. On top of that, it'll stay on your hands. It'll kill the coronavirus for 2 hours. So just FYI, that's all I have on that update right now. Is just understand the information is not real that's out there. There are confirmed cases. Italy is northern Italy. Many of their cities are on lockdown, and Japan just released a whole bunch of people that were on a boat with coronavirus, and just released them out into the public. They got on airplanes, and then they flew to their homes. Many of them all over the world, many of them coming back to the United States, that were on a ship with coronavirus, and none of them tested, none of them checked out. So again, symptom free doesn't mean they don't have it. It just means the symptoms haven't shown themselves.
Right.
But here's the other thing right now that they know of is that it is a low fatality rate that they know of at this point in time. It's no different than the regular flu season. This is what we know, but there are other aggravations to it, and we need to just pay attention.
If it's a low mortality rate, why is everybody in such a hoopla?
Because they don't have real numbers. That's the problem. They don't have real numbers. They don't know if people are, is it flu? Is it pneumonia? Is it anything else?
Because according to like some of the witnesses, the nurses and things that have been in China, they said the numbers are huge of the death toll.
It can be up to 40 to 60%. So that's what we're knowing. And so Korea is doing a lot of lockdown. They have one army base, Korean army base is actually on full lockdown because of it. And they're also concerned about not only supplies coming into America, but Korean car companies I had heard something about like Hyundai and Kia may be on shutdown. And partly is because they get a lot of their parts from China, and those companies that they're supplying Korea for parts are on shutdown. So things are going to be affecting. This thing is going to have all sorts of ramifications worldwide, economically, as well as just what's happening in health-wise. So just pay attention. This is a good time. Build up your supplies as well. You need to, if you say, well, I can't afford food, My Patriot Supply still has it. They have got it. It's a 21-day waiting period right now. You can get it still discounted at the InfoWars store. And I'm not trying to push this particular thing. That's what I know. That's just, you can research it out for yourself. But you want to get some supplies. If you can afford that, do that. You can buy a 2-week, 4-week supply at a time. Or if you can't do anything, just go to the grocery store, get some extra bags of beans, rice, canned goods, anything like that that can last, that'll help you out. Anything will do. And then I believe that we need to be marrying the Torah with the book of Acts. And this is where and understand, Yeshua was able to make the fish and the bread multiply.
Well, that's
and many of us are all in the same boat. It's like, how can we even buy an extra bag of beans just right with a budget? Well, we need to do what we can. We need to be wise. And then on the other side, and we just need to believe Yah for protection, for healing, for supplies. And so to keep all of those things in mind.
It's a great opportunity for him to show his glory.
Yes, it is very much. Not that we don't walk in fear. We walk in faith. We prepare for what we can prepare for, and then we pray through these circumstances.
That's right. And Joe says, store that water. Yes. Do that.
Yeah.
If you can, go plant some seeds too. Get your seedlings going if you haven't already.
That's right. So. Because what we're going to have, because what they're concerned about is supplying markets with food as well. So if you have your own supply, then you're going to be a little bit more self-sustaining. The other thing is, and we hadn't talked about this, is the sprouts. You can grow sprouts, and sprouts are full of vitamins and minerals, and they grow fairly quickly. So sprouts is a good grow your own vitamin.
All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say? Go vote. No. Pray for your president.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that. And hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. I'm sorry, just that.
Is that still that song?
That Pink Floyd song. Yeah, it's in my head.
Oh my goodness.
In my head.
All right. Well, I think we need to get to our study. As I said, we have been talking about the fish gate, and you're laughing.
We just think about it. Stop teaching our kids all that junk. Okay. All right.
That has nothing to do with what we're saying.
We should just homeschool. That's just the best way.
Oh.
Whoa.
Well, John, what else are you going to demonstrate today?
Homeschool. Okay.
You just knocked the camera and everything.
I don't know. Did you get that? That was like an earthquake.
Oh my goodness. And now the camera is crooked. Okay, I can't look at it because it's going to bother me. All right. Okay, is there anything else you want to contribute to this evening?
No.
All right. Okay, well, one more time, as I was so interrupted just moments ago, we've been talking about the fish gate, and now we're going to talk about the significance that fishermen, and everything have, because those gates are important. Why are the gates there? We're discussing that, but we're taking this detour to discuss fish because it's the fish gate, and there's some relation there. So last time we were talking about the prophetic implications and what fish means, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I may do just a tiny bit of review because I want us to be sure that we get this. So get your word out, and let's remember that fish multiply. And the fifth day of creation, what was created?
On the fifth day.
Fish, birds,
and
they're supposed to multiply and spread seed, spread the Torah, spread the word, and swarms and schools of fish. Anyway, they multiply and spread the word.
Talk about teachers.
Okay, schools. I think you need to stop thinking about that song.
Just another
brick
in the wall.
please. Okay, let's focus on this. And so we see that multiplication factor. We also know that fishermen. Okay, Terry and Joe, you might have to wrangle him in. That's all I can say, because it's not working from this end. You both know him, and you may have to, I don't know. I don't know. It's not working over here. Anyway, and fishermen, we are all supposed to be fishers of men. We're supposed to be fishermen. So just remember some of those basic things that we've had in a while, and that we've talked about. Now, when we look at Ephraim, we are supposed to be Ephraim. Ephraim spread throughout the world, right? And when we look at the Hebrew language, we know Ephraim's name means fruitful, right? So that fruitful and multiplication sort of go together. And we know that Ephraim is supposed to have descendants described as what? Fish. And the fish are supposed to be proliferate. They're teeming multitudes of fish. And we know that Ephraim has got teeming multitudes all around the world. So we know that Ephraim received the blessing of what? the firstborn, the double portion, right? Or he received that firstborn blessing. But it's also prophetic of a future time. Oh my goodness, John, do we just need to stop the show?
Say, what did he get? I was going to say fish. I have a fish story.
When we
for
come,
later.
No. No. But when Ephraim receives this blessing, but it's prophetic as well when he receives that blessing, because he is described as katan, or small and insignificant. And when we come to the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, we know that there were 7 loaves and what?
2
The
fishes.
fish were described as small, even
2 fishes.
So the Talmud says that the descendants of Ephraim will be like fishes in the midst of the earth and the sea, covered by water. So do you see, isn't it interesting that the Talmud even talks about that? And we're supposed to be fishers of men. We are like fish, spreading the word. I mean, all of these things come into play, and we need to remember that, because if you think of what the Talmud says, that will be like fishes in the midst of the earth and the sea, covered by water. Water represents people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the peoples, we're going to be in the midst of the peoples, a multitude of peoples even. It's this prophetic fame of Ephraim's offspring are supposed to make themselves known and fill the nations. And what are we supposed to fill the nations with? Are we supposed to act like the rest of the nations? No, we're supposed to be different, so that the other the nations can come to know Yeshua, can come to know the Torah and be full of the Spirit. And so we're supposed to be fruitful. Yes, we are fish, but we're also fishers of men, and we're supposed to be fruitful. And it's the way you describe the congregation of people. And so just remember that. That's just sort of a brief review of some of the things we talked about the last time. We're going to continue. But what about the fish and the prophets? Because there's mention of the fish and the prophets, Jeremiah 16:16, and this is still review, but you can turn over there if you'd like. Reading the word might calm you down a little bit.
Okay. Jeremiah 16:16.
Let's try that.
Okay. Yeah. Behold, I'm going to send for many fishermen, declares Yahweh, and they will fish for them. And afterwards, I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt them from every mountain and every hill and from the clefts of the rocks.
So here we have this description of the idolatry of Israel, and Israel's, got in trouble because she's prostituted herself, and she was exiled, and because of that. And anyway, Yah says that he would honor his promise to Yaakov, and he would send many fishermen out, and they will fish for them. In other words, save them out of the pit they're in, remind them of who they are and who they are, because they've lost their identity, so that they can truly follow Yahweh. All right. Thank you for the contribution.
Yes. I'm thinking on that one.
But as I said the last time, the
Still
Hebrew
on.
word for fisherman has a different spelling. It uses the vav instead of the yod right there. And the vav represents completion, and the yod is a reference to life in the world. So this reference could point to 2 different redemptions of Israel. It's really cool. The first redemption with the vav was a physical rescue from slavery. And the second one, well, what is that? That's a future redemption. And how does that come about? Because of Messiah Yeshua. And we've got to also understand that it's the fishermen who help bring about that redemption, because they're rescuing Israel. They're spreading the word. They're going out and finding the masses and pouring in, giving them the truth. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be like that. So let's look at Ezekiel 47. Everybody, what?
So what does it mean when they had a fish fry?
Would you please
next
turn
to
to
the
Ezekiel
Sea
47?
of Galilee? They did. They had a fish fry, and they made some of the fish fried, and they got off the boat. Where are we going?
Ezekiel 47.
All right. I'm sorry, guys. I'm probably being a distraction to y'all.
You are
tonight.
very much a distraction tonight. And that's I think the last time we did this show, you were somewhat of a distraction then too.
Just a
Do we need to
distraction.
put you in the corner?
Maybe. Okay.
1 through 10.
Oh.
So Ezekiel 47, 1 through 10. And what's happening here is because this is describing things that are going to take place in the time of when? In the future, when we're the redemption of in the future. So have that in mind, okay?
Then he brought me back to the door of the house, and behold, water was flowing from under the threshold of the house toward the east, for the house faced east. And the water was flowing down from the right side of the house, from the south of the altar. And he brought me out of the way of the north gate and led me around on the outside of the outer gate by way of the gate that faces east. And behold, water was trickling from the south side. And when the man went out toward the east with a line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits. And he led me through the water, and the water reaching the ankles. And again he measured 1,000 and led me through the water reaching the knees. Again, he measured 1,000, and he led me through the water, reaching the loins. Again, he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not ford, for the water had risen, even enough water to swim in, a river that could not be forded. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me back to the bank of the river, and when I had returned, behold, on the bank of the river, there were many trees on the one side and on the other. And he said to me, these waters go out toward the eastern region and go down into the Arabah. Then they go toward the sea, being made to flow into the sea, and the waters of the sea became fresh. And it will come about that every living creature that swarms in every place where the river goes will live, and there will be very many fish, for these waters go there, and the others become fresh. So everything will live where the river goes. And it will come about that the fishermen will stand beside it from the En-gedi to the En-Galaim. There will be a place for the spreading of nets. Their fish will be according to their kinds, like the fish of the great sea, very many.
All right. So here we're talking about fish again, and we're talking about a river that's flowing, out from under the door of the temple down the right side. It's supposed to go to the Dead Sea and make that fresh water, make the Dead Sea fresh water with teeming with life, that fishermen will stand on the banks. Remember, there's banks on the river. He saw trees on the side, the river. What are trees? Trees are also people, but this is said to be a river where you could just stand and cast your net and you could catch all kinds of fish. Now, the river, we talked about this, I don't know on what show. I don't know if it was on a show, and I don't know if it was at Life of Worship. Oh, I think it was during tour portion. But out of us is supposed to flow rivers of living water. Now imagine when those rivers, when everyone's river comes together, it creates this mighty surge of power as an anointing to just bring the people in. And when that river that flows forth from the throne, that flows under the temple door to the right, and it brings life to everything it touches. And that's what's supposed to be like, where we will be able, because of the river that's flowing in us and through us, that we're going to be able to bring people into the kingdom, remind them who they are, so that and then they will multiply and do the same thing. That reviving of the Dead Sea with that life-giving water, reviving those who were dead to bring forth life. And Joe said, Dead Sea equals the works dead, and the sin we are to share the fresh water, the living water. Yes, that is exactly right. So fishermen will stand on the shore, spread their nets, and catch such a variety. Remember, the fish all look different because they're among the nations. Every nation's fish looks different, and there's different looking fish inside each nation. But the fish are supposed to be like people, and they're going to be healed by the water that gives life to the dead. And that word that comes forth from you and I is supposed to bring life to the dead places. Which also reminds me of Ezekiel and the dry bones. We're supposed to be an army that rises up as flesh and sinew come upon us once again and be united as one, because an army has to be united. And even in schools of fish, when you see them move, they move together. They switch fast, but they're always in unity together. I imagine the loanfish gets eaten by the shark or the whale or the shark babe.
Shark.
No. Do, baby. Yeah. Okay, now I got distracted. So the place where the life-giving water is offered again is unity in the house of Israel. Folks, who are you? If you believe in Yeshua, filled with the Spirit, you're following his ways, you're Israel. You've been grafted in, you're Hebrew, folks. You're supposed to be part of this whole plan, not just sitting back as an observer, but you're to be the participant. You're a fish who goes fishing, right?
That's really true. And if you look at the current stats of what's going on in the world today, or in the United States, a lot of people are listening to the United States, and other countries of the world, it's even less. Some might be more. But think about this. We used to be a nation that was considered a Christian, Judeo-believing type of nation. People that believed in the Bible, people believed in the Word, people believed in Yeshua. And it's not like that anymore. Current statistics is now less than, I think it's less than 70%. I think it's in the 60s will identify themselves as Christian. And I'm using that term, and don't hang me on this. They identify themselves as Christian, so to speak. And however, the attendance level is even less in terms of churches in America, because the church isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. And am I pointing my finger at the church? No, I'm pointing at us, because we as believers aren't doing what we need to be doing. It's not about getting people to come in and fill pews or fill chairs or anything like that. Things have changed because our culture has changed. And if we don't change and figure out how to go fishing again, because fish are different now. If we don't figure out how these fish and what they're gonna be biting on, and how we can gather them up in nets. Yeshua said, after all night fishing, they didn't catch a thing. He said, throw your nets on the other side of the boat. We need to figure what side of the boat it is. We need to hear that word, because there's a lot of people out there, and we say, well, it's people just don't want to know anymore. No, it's just that we're using the wrong bait.
But also think about that. Yaakov, Jacob, Israel put his right hand on Ephraim. And what side of the boat did Yeshua say to cast your net out on?
On the right side of the boat.
There's significance to that.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And so just because people aren't biting right now doesn't mean that people aren't hungry. It's just that they don't have a taste for what we're offering. We need to figure out why we don't have something that's savory enough for them to bite on. But the fish are still there.
But by the same token, we can't be flashy and say, because I've heard of churches doing this. Hey, the first 50 people you come in, you'll be in a drawing. The new visitors, you'll be in a drawing to receive a TV.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Come get your widget. We got widgets today. Everybody wants a widget. Sounds like a barker on the street corner. Come one, come all. No, I don't think that's right. So I got a problem with that. But there are certain things we need to do when people do come into our congregations and our gatherings. That's very important. I think even how we conduct ourselves is very important. But we have to understand that in the information age, people's expectations, people's way that they communicate is a lot different than the way it used to be. It used to be that you could have these big revivals and revive the people that were in there. You could call in your friends and gather, and people like, oh yeah, I kind of left it as my faith in my children, in my youth, and now I have a revival. We come and I get right with God and do that. Well, that doesn't work anymore. Those type of things don't work. There are other things that the Father wants us to use, but if we just continue to be aging in our groups, in our congregations, in our Torah studies, and that type of thing, and we do have an aging population, and we don't have a lot of younger ones coming in, there's something that we need to be doing, and we need to find out. We need to hear what the Spirit's doing, and perhaps if you look at it, and with the things that are happening in the earth today, perhaps the Father's given us some ammunition, so to speak, maybe some good bait, so that we can be life to people that when the news finally hits and the news catches up with what's really going on out there, there's going to be a lot of fear. There's going to be a lot of people panicking. There's going to be a lot of people that's needing answers. And if we're not ready to step up, and it's all about what type of net we're casting out and what side of the boat will depend on how effective we are. And the other thing is like the things that Sandy and I are seeing is that he'll tell us to go fish in certain ponds, because there's certain places he wants us to fish and other places he doesn't. There's a certain anointing for a certain time period that each one we need to discover what that is.
That's right.
And so again, that's why we have to couple the book of Acts with the Torah, so that we can really be fishing in the right place.
That's exactly right. I want to go back to the passage in Ezekiel, and because we had talked about doubles a few weeks ago, and yet here is another double that, a one word that appears in two different tenses, and that word is to stand.
Can I just say something else too? And it was something we talked about last night in our Torah Talks study, and because we had a pre-discussion before the study. But I just want to say this as well. It's so important that you stay connected where the Father has planted you, because that group needs your giftings and your talents. When you leave, it's a part of the body that's missing. And here's something I also want to say is that body is looking for those gifts and talents to reach out and minister in the way that congregation can't do.
In other words, you may have an idea and you need to connect, make sure you're in vision with the leaders of the congregation, but connect and have another branch of that ministry. Like at Life of Worship, we can have many ministries. And
why go start a new ministry or a new group or something like that, when maybe what needs to be done is simply launch so that the umbrella can expand. Exactly. And that this ministry can be dynamic in so many different dimensions. Stay connected, folks. Stay connected.
Right.
All right. That's all I had to say about that.
Okay. So the word stand appears in two different tenses in Ezekiel 47. The first is a future tense, and the second.
Why recreate the wheel? That's what I was going to say. All right, go on. Sorry. We're in two different tracks going here. Thank you, Sandy. We got two different tenses.
And the second is past tense. So the stand, can you find that in there? Stand refers to the fishermen. Can you find that in your passage, verses 1 through 10?
I'll find it. We'll talk about standing.
Yeah.
Okay, you go ahead and I'll see if I can find it.
And the root is amad, A-M-A-D, and it means to stand in preparation to act. So to stand in preparation to act. So think about that. It's referring to the fishermen. Stand, act, be ready to act. That's very important, because as Hebrews, we are people that don't just have that Greek mindset and talk about our ideas. We do what we believe, right? So it also sort of points us to the idea of remaining. Standing points us to the idea of remaining and enduring, as opposed to just giving up, to perishing, to, just forget it. It's too hard. I'm going to quit. No, the fishermen are supposed to stand. We're supposed to endure. We're supposed to act.
I found it.
All right. What does it say?
It's in verse 10. And it will come about that fishermen will stand beside it from En-gedi to En-galaim. And there will be a place for the spreading of nets. Their fish will be according to their kinds, like the fish of the great sea, very many.
So where's the second one?
Well, that was the second one, because that was the last one in the passage. That was the first.
You may have to take over here in a second.
I'm making you hot. That's what it is. When Sandy gets hot, sometimes she does that.
Anyway, so the first one was supposed to be future tense, and the second is past tense, and we're supposed to stand and endure, and instead of oppose and perish and give up. And it's sort of this picture of both redemptions of the house of Israel, the past rescue from Egypt, and what the future one, the future redemption from this world the way it is. Our Messiah is coming for a bride. And it's the work of the fishermen that are going to help accomplish this future redemption. So now we can apply our understanding from the Holy Spirit to a passage in John here. And we've got to also look at it with this Hebraic culture and context of the time, and note that fish, what did people eat back then? What was a basic staple of their diet?
Fish.
It's not like us that go and kill the fatted calf.
Oh, I like the calf. Veal is very good. Enjoy it.
But meat wasn't you didn't have it every day, much less several times a day.
Beef, it makes you happy.
It makes you happy. So fish is a staple for the diet. So your fish and you eat fish anyway. So there's this big demand. And so the price for fish was oftentimes out of reach of the poor themselves anyway. And that's sad. But the fishing industry on the lake was a competitive one. I mean, that's how people made their living. And the scriptures say that many of the disciples were what? Fishermen. And they came from, the prosperous, perhaps even assimilated middle-class families. We always think that the fishermen were poverty-stricken, and that's not the case. Our misconceptions of the word and our Messiah and the disciples it's sort of topsy-turvy, turned around. I see that. Sorry. Yes, I see the commentary, my dear.
Okay.
So the disciples served.
Where's the beef?
They were actually administrators. And in this fishing industry, as well as the practical role, and they were experienced businessmen. Remember, these guys were carrying on business. They weren't just some daft people out there throwing a fishing line. Of course, they didn't use fishing lines. They used nets. But how do we picture this? I mean, we picture them so differently than what is actually the truth. These middle-class businessmen, the business they were self-employed, making a living and being successful at it. All right. So anyway, and most Jewish fishermen did follow the Torah in their business practices, which is good because they distinguished by what? Between clean and unclean fish. Had you ever thought about that?
Yeah. So when you're fishing for people in the world,
all right.
Is there a distinction?
Well, let's just talk about it. Because in the Galilee, you could sell the fish that were considered unclean to the Gentiles in the Decapolis region for sure, which was considered by some of the sages and things to be the pagans, quote unquote pagans. But the fish sold by the Gentiles were presumed to be unclean. In other words, if it was a Gentile fisherman, we're not even going to touch those fish. They're probably not clean. So the Jewish buyers went only to what? Jewish sellers.
Yeah.
Jewish suppliers. Let's look at Matthew 7, verse 10.
Well, it just makes me think about, honestly, when you go to a restaurant, what's been cooking up next to my burger? Just saying. Matthew what?
Matthew 7, verse 10.
Okay.
Yeah. And I see that we're getting some likes. If you're listening, we would love for you to subscribe and like this program, share this program. That would be amazing. Joe said fish were used not only for eating, but also to fertilize gardens. That's true because I use fish to fertilize my garden. Fish. Anyway, do you have it?
I do. And Matthew 7:10, for if he shall ask for a fish, he will not give him a snake, will he?
Okay. Now, it is said by some, let's specifically G.M. Burge, that it's a mistranslation. It's not a snake. It's supposed to be a catfish. You just put that on a shelf and go study that out, see what you can find. But he wrote a book, Fishers of Men, The Maritime Life of Galilee's North Shore.
Well, that makes more sense.
But the catfish is what? Is it a fish you and I can eat? No, nobody's supposed to eat it. It's not food.
And every just filleted fish all looks the same when it's laying out there.
Well, it probably doesn't to trained eye, but ours are not trained eyes. Anyway, so the people would not have. Joe said catfish are like serpents, but the people would not have been buying catfish, and they would be able to recognize the difference. So I don't know if I would have to do some more study on my own to see if that proves out true, but that is sure something to go out there and study. Snake instead of catfish. Is there a mistranslation there? I'm not sure, but some say there is. So let's find that out. So once fish were actually brought in, what was the first thing the fishermen did? They were going to separate, because the nets didn't capture everything that was there. It wasn't like, oh, only one specific kind. There was everything in those nets, and they would separate those fish. And let's look at Matthew 13, 47 through 50. Matthew 13, 47 through 50.
Right. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet cast into the sea and gathering fish of every kind. And when it was filled, they drew it up on the beach, and they sat down and gathered the good fish into containers, but the bad they threw away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels shall come forth and take out the wicked from among the righteous, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be weeping and gnashing of feet. Weeping and gnashing of feet. What translation is that?
Yours.
I think that's teeth. And have you understood all these things? Did you just want me to go through 50?
I told you through 50.
Okay. Yeah. So the weeping and gnashing of feet.
Teeth. What pill did you say you took?
The blue pill.
Anyway. So here we have this story about the sorting of the fish. And of course, there's a spiritual aspect to this as well. And we're going to continue to talk about that. But in ancient times, as I said before, you didn't use a fishing line. You used nets. And according to Mendel Noon, the men were using a trammel net, which is compound net built from 3 different layers. That's a net. I bet that was expensive.
Sounds complicated.
Trammel net. Anyway, so this is a quote: hauling the net ashore and disentangling the fish, sorting them, and repairing the many breaks during the day took a lot of work, explains Burge, who met with Noon. So that in itself, it's a big ordeal to just bring in your net, sort the fish, to bring in your net and repair it. It's not some lightweight, easy job, tiny little net. We're talking about a major net, and we're supposed to throw out a big net too. What are we supposed to do? So the fishermen who used the trammel net, they fished at night. And when at the first light of day, guess what they did?
They stopped fishing.
Work was over. Work was done.
Because the fish can see the net.
The fish can see the net. So when Yeshua actually arrived at shore, while the disciples were washing out their nets after that night of fishing, and they caught absolutely nothing. Part of the miracle of that catch was that there was a large number of fish where they had been already fished earlier. There wasn't anything there before, and it's the time of day when the fish weren't even supposed to be there, yet they were able to catch the fish. Those fish followed the direction of Yeshua and went directly there. So if you see anything that you need to say, then do that. Anyway, the miracle was that the fish were even in the area and in the net, et cetera, because they could see that thing. They could see the net as it was in the water. They could finally see it.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing, because during that, when they were throwing that net off on the other side of the boat, it's very interesting because it was daylight. So it tells us that even as the seventh day approaches, as the 7,000th millennium arrives, it is likened unto a new day. And as the new day is dawning upon us, there's still a mighty harvest of fish. And because how do we know? Because when we look out to the shore, who's there? It's Yeshua. I'm telling you, there's a prophetic insight in that as well. So don't give up on the fishing.
Well, but we also need to remember that some will plant the seed, some will water the seed, and some will harvest. But in the end, seed time and harvest time come together.
Yeah, but it said that who was in the boat? Was it all of the disciples were out there fishing together?
Well, the ones that were there. And what's interesting too is that miracle took place, and they had such an abundance that it would normally taken them weeks to catch that amount of fish, or at least a bit of time itself. But Yeshua is the miracle worker. He's the one that can direct the fish into the net.
Yeah.
So guess what? That comes under divine appointments. You cast your net. You say, Father, right now in the name of Yeshua, give me divine appointments today. He'll direct the fish to your net if you will simply but be a ready vessel to be used.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
There's my commentary on that one.
Anyway, welcome Stacy, Joe, and Terry and Rexana. We're so glad to see all of you guys and all those others who are listening one more time. Glad to have you here. And anyway, so now let's continue to look. Yeshua's resurrection, what about it? It coincides with what feast? First fruits, right? His resurrection.
Yes.
And the start of the counting of the Omer. And scripture says that we count the Omer each day for how long? For 7 weeks, making 49 days plus 1, which is 50, right?
Yes.
And we're supposed to be in prayer. And the Omer is actually a community offering, not an individual one. And the people of Israel asked Moses when they should worship Yah, and he replied, when? At the end of the 50 days. And here we have these numbers, and they always have significance. According to the sages, 7 attributes were replanted in the world by one of the great ancestors and the patriarchs. And these were from Abraham to David, and they were called 7 shepherds, which that's a whole show. We can study the 7 shepherds. But is it possible that the 7 disciples in John reflect the 7 shepherds of Israel? I don't know. That's something to consider. And John 21 took place during the 2nd week of the counting of the Omer, and the emphasis was on the attribute of Isaac, who personified strength and immortality. Anyway, those are just some things that you can see and play as people think some of this stuff through.
Well, of course, Isaac, it was a representation of Yeshua because he was resurrected, so to speak, there on Mount Moriah.
It is true. And there's so much you can study out and directions you can take, even from one little part of scripture. And anyway, so I want us to look again at the blessing of Ephraim, because Yaakov prophesied that Ephraim would abound in wisdom and knowledge, actually superior wisdom and knowledge. And Jacob's blessing confirmed that even though Israel would be mingled with pagan nations, that what would happen to them? They were going to wake up. They were going to come out of the nations. They were going to teshuvah. They were going to turn back to Yah. They were going to come to their senses and remember who they were, just as we've said over and over and over again. And I think that's very important to remember, because we're talking about this fish gate. We're talking about the concept of fish, and then the fish becoming the fishermen. And we're talking about this end time harvest, this harvest that's right now that you're supposed to bring in.
Well, I just had to say this, going back to our earlier passage in Ezekiel 47, and he says in verse 6 and 7, and he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me back to the bank of the river. Now when I had returned, when I had shuved, I had made teshuvah, behold, on the bank of the river, there were many, very many trees on the one side and the other. So there's something about that a lot of times, where was he? He was out in the middle of the river. It was too deep to ford. And he said, "Son of man, have you seen this?" And he brought me back to the bank where the trees were. In other words, where he's talking about a fish being brought back to where the trees, to those that are rooted. And you look at the trees over in Revelation, and what are the trees about? They're the trees that produce fruit every month. So this is watered by the water that comes from the throne room. So you have all of these different pictures and symbolisms that are brought in. The fish are brought back to the bank as soon as they return, and they're brought to the trees that are fruitful. Well, trees are representation of man, and man who is fruitful is, according to Psalm chapter 1, is, I'll just go over here and read it real quick, is like the one who studies Torah. It says, "How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law, in the Torah of Yahweh, and in his law he meditates in it day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by the streams of water, which yield its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and in whatever he does, he prospers." So there you go. And of course, then it has a contrast with the wicked. You can read that on your own. But there's that whole concept of trees being gathered, or fish being gathered out of the water. They are returned to the bank, and they're like a tree. That's all I had to say about that.
Well, no, that's good. That's good. I like that. And Joe concurs. Trees are like people, So anyway, we are almost at time already.
I know this has been another fastest hour in the planet.
I know. I was about to start something else, but I think we need to hold on.
So you got to come back next time.
Yes, come back next week.
You never know what type of mood I'll be in next week, so you got to stay tuned.
I don't know. Maybe we need to get some tape.
Tape? Tape? Tape hurts on whiskers, just so you know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Terry. She said, "Good job, Sparky."
Good. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, your family loves you.
Where's the beef anyway? That's right, Joe. She said that.
So
okay.
let's study.
Do you remember that commercial?
Yes.
To the lady, she's like, lifts
old
up the
woman.
bun. Where's the beef?
All right. You guys, thank you for joining us here tonight on Walking in Spirit and Truth. It has been a delight having you, and thank you for being patient as we waded through somebody's mood. Yeah, I pointed directly to you. And there's several people here from your own congregation. So we got Joe, Roxana, and Terry right here from Life of Worship.
Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone.
No. So thank you for those that haven't been a part. We are so glad that you've joined us tonight.
I'm going to go
We
find
can't
some
wait
beef.
to see you again. Hey, join us this Shabbat. Join us if you can. Come and join us in our services and ministry and studies. We would
Torah
love
study.
to have you Torah study.
On
if
Pal
not,
Talk.
join us on Pal Talk. But if you live close, come and be part, because there's something that happens when we come together. We're supposed to come together and praise him and worship him and exalt him and put the anointings each of us carry together, and that river flows. I don't know about you, but I want a river that's so deep that it covers me up and experience all that God has. And that's what happens when we come together. Hallelujah.
I have to do one thing before we go.
No.
Because Joe just said homeschool. All right. And I did that without creating an earthquake here on the camera.
Stop. Oh my goodness. Anyway, www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. Drop us a line. Join us. Partner with us. If you want John and I to visit you or your congregation to worship, teach, preach, whatever it may be, let us know. Drop us a line and partner with us in not only in your finances, but also in prayer for our congregation as we grow and as we do exactly what he got done. Because we want to go where he goes, do what he does, and say what he says.
Give us a thumbs up, share us,
a thumbs up, and
put it on your Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media you have. Share the word.
Thank you. Until next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central. Shalom.
Shalom.